I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk, can you do roll call?
Commissioner Avila-Vasquez?
Present.
Commissioner Colwell?
Here.
Commissioner Howington?
Here.
Commissioner Lilly?
Present.
Commissioner Santiago? Here. Vice Mayor Harriet?
Here.
Mayor Avila?
And then at this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Santiago to present the invocation and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Please stand for the invocation. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Pastor Ricardo Rodriguez and Pastor Joey Ruiz from Central International de la Familia de Deltona to do the invocation. Pastor?
Muchas gracias.
Many thanks.
Antes de orar, quiero darle las gracias a cada uno de ustedes, los comisionados, y al alcalde Santiago Ávila por la oportunidad.
Before entering into prayer, I want to give thanks to the commissioners and to our mayor, Avila, for
Y
this
es un honor
opportunity.
para mí estar 20 años en esta ciudad de destino llamado Deltona.
And it's a blessing for me to be 20 years in this city of destiny called Deltona.
Padre, en este día
Father, this day,
venimos delante de ti,
we come before you,
pidiéndote, Señor, el favor y la gracia tuya
asking for your favor and your grace
para que nos guíes
so that you guide us
en todas las decisiones
in all our decisions
que en esta noche se han de tomar,
that tonight we will be taking,
que dirijas los pasos
that you direct our steps
para que esta ciudad
so that this city
se convierta en una ciudad que brille
will convert into a city that shines,
y en una ciudad donde tu mano
in a city where your hand
establezca tus propósitos.
establishes your purpose.
Te pido, Dios, como decía Jeremías
I ask you, God, as Jeremiah would
en
say
el capítulo 29, verso 7,
in chapter 29, verse 7,
dice, y procurar la paz de la ciudad a la cual os he puesto.
and work for the peace and prosperity of the city where I sent you.
Rogad por ella,
Pray for it,
porque en su paz tendréis vosotros paz.
for in its welfare you will determine your welfare.
Hablo, Señor, que en este año
Lord, I ask that in this year
sea un año glorioso
may be a glorious year
de paz,
of peace,
de provisión
of provision,
y de cuidado.
and of care.
Declaramos, Señor, que este año ninguna arma forjada
I declare this year that no weapon formed against
contra nuestras familias,
our families,
contra nuestros hijos,
our children,
prosperará.
will prosper.
Declaramos provisión
I declare provision
para que no falte nada
so that we will not lack anything
en la casa de mis vecinos
in the house of my neighbors,
y que la gloria tuya
and that your glory
y tu favor resplandezca
and your favor may shine
sobre esta ciudad tan hermosa
over this beautiful city
en la cual nos permite ser parte de ella.
in which you allow us to be a part of.
Que nos unas
That you unite us
como un solo pueblo,
as one people
sin distinción de color,
without distinction of color,
de raza ni lenguaje,
of race or language,
sino que podamos mostrar
but that we may
que
show
somos todos
that we all are
tu creación,
your creation,
tus hijos,
your children,
y juntos te daremos gracias.
and all together we'll give you thanks.
Gracias, Señor,
Thank you, Lord,
porque tú escuchas
because you listen
las oraciones de tus hijos
to the prayers of your children
y estableces tu propósito
and you establish your purpose
como creador
as creator
de toda la tierra
of all the earth
y de nuestras vidas.
and of our lives.
Por eso te doy
And
gracias
so I give you thanks
en este día,
in this day,
en el nombre del
in the
Padre,
name of the Father,
del Hijo y del Espíritu Santo.
the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amén.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, if we can remain standing, and please join me in the pledge to our flag.
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Santiago, if you don't mind presenting the Veteran of the Month as well.
Yep. At this time, if I can have the commission go down to the podium. Thank you. I am grateful for the City Commission last year for passing an ordinance or just a rule to honor a veteran at every commission meeting. And this year, it is my great honor and privilege to have Cassie Landron join me up front at this time. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you for your service to the United States Air Force from 2004 to 2013. A distinguished career that excelled in two critical roles. First, as an imagery intelligence analyst, and later as a remotely piloted aircraft RPA sensor operator. Classified operations included Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, and Operation New Dawn. As Staff Sergeant E5, she held a top-secret security clearance, earned numerous accolades, including 19 medals, 6 awards, and 7 achievement ribbons. She completed Airman Leadership School and earned associate's degrees in intelligence and air and space technologies from the Community College of the Air Force. Thank you so much for your outstanding service, leadership, sacrifice to our nation, and an inspiration to our community. Thank you, Cassie Landrum.
And if the commission doesn't mind,
Just want to say something. You know, it's amazing how things work out. Cassie was stationed the same air base in Las Vegas as my son, although they didn't even know each other.
thank you, Cassie. If the commission doesn't mind, City Manager, do we have any additions and deletions to the agenda tonight?
Going blank on, you're talking about the request for zoning in progress?
I'll make that at the end.
For G9?
The next meeting.
No, not at this time.
Okay. If the commission doesn't mind staying up here for the STAR student presentations, we'll just go right into that. We're going to have a slight change to the procedures that we normally have for the STAR students. We'll call up everybody by name, and then if you don't mind just staying up here off to the side, and then we'll do one picture at the end with everybody, with the whole group. Please.
Jenilyn Mantia, Deltona Lakes Elementary. Bella Munoz, Discovery Elementary. Bella Munoz. Amelia Delgado, Friendship Elementary. Gianna Howington, Forest Lake Elementary. Gabriela Martinez Ramos, Forest Lake Elementary. Garrett Hobel, Pride Elementary. Amaya Hunter, Sunrise Elementary. Alejandro Garcia, Timbercrest Elementary. Logan Jones, Volusia Pines Elementary. Bentley Bryce Harvey, Deltona Middle. Declan Mills, Galaxy Middle. Sabrina Gonzalez, Heritage Middle. Danica Rosario, Deltona High. Noah Stoops, Pine Ridge High School.
That's all. If you guys don't mind coming back up and taking a picture with the commission, that'd be great. Thank you guys for achieving academically. And parents, thank you guys for supporting your children and their education. Behind the children. Come on. All the parents got the pictures?
Just keep that parrot. There we go.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Can I grab it so I can take it to her? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A few moments to let them out. 9B. They get so loud and say 9B because that's fine.
If we're gonna just give them a few minutes to leave.
Hello.
this time, we'll continue on with the agenda. I do want to take a step back to number 4. The city manager did let me know that there was a change, and we're going to pull item 9B. At this point, we are going to continue on with presentations, awards, reports. Item B, Lakeshore 4B project. If we
Okay, we're on. Good evening, Commissioners, Vice Mayor Jim Parrish, Deputy Utility Director. Wanted to share with you all update on our Lakeshore 4B straw project. It's got many names and had many conversations about it throughout the time that we've been doing the project. Wanted to give a little bit of background on the totality of the project so that everybody's aware of some of the phases and some of the steps that we've gone through to get to the point that we're at now. There have been many phases of this project. The first that we really culminated at is what we call the 4A project. It's what we call our rib site, or the Alexander Avenue stormwater augmentation facility. That is located at Mobley Drive and Alexander, and that's where we have a series of 8 ribs. And then we also have a stormwater augmentation process that is there that was designed and built so that we could take flows from our Tivoli Wheeling pump station, as well as our Nardello pond, which is down the hill from there a little ways, as well as it was intended to receive flow from Lakeshore. So this was the first phase of the project. I believe we started with the ribs back in 2014. In 2015, we received our first ground storage tanks there, and there's been probably a total of 7 phases through there. Some have been labeled 3A, 3B, 4A, so forth. Then we moved on to the 4B project, which is what we know as the Lakeshore, the straw project. So we started the 4A project so that we could have a facility that could process the stormwater, or the lake water, surface water from Lake Monroe, once we got that phase of the project completed. The last and final phase of that is what we call a ASR, or Aquifer Storage and Recovery Well, so that once we took the water from Lake Monroe, polished it, cleaned up the nutrients out of it, we then had a storage area, which was a deep well where we could store that cleaned water. It could be used to recharge the aquifer, or we could actually bring it back up out of the ground and use it to supplement reclaim with. The benefits of this project are many folds. One of them being that we have what we call our CUP, or our consumptive use permit, that limits us on what type of groundwater we can actually remove from the aquifer. This project in totality was to allow us to receive credits for the water that we're recharging the aquifer for, which would grant us the ability to use more groundwater. St. John's Water Management District only allows us to use so much water, and if you're recharging the aquifer, then they will give you credits so that you can grow your consumptive use permit. Additional benefits of this is reclaimed water whenever we are in dry periods. Sometimes whenever we get into the March, April, May times before the rains get here through the summer, we need reclaimed water to supplement and not use potable water to water lawns, and to knock down other things such as fire hazards and so forth. So many benefits to this project, which is why we started this many years ago. But to focus on the 4B, the intake structure, which is down at Lakeshore. what we did is we had a design that said, hey, we're going to build this structure that we're going to put concrete basically 30 feet down into the ground so that we can have a storage area for the water that we get out of the lake that will then go to a structure across the street and then be pumped up to the Alexander Avenue 4A facility. As many of you know, while construction was going on in that area that we call the wet well area for the intake structure, we hit a boil. We also hit another boil that was up on the other side of the road, which with dirt on top of it and engineering, we were able to quickly plug that one. The boil that we hit on the lakeside, the amount of flow that was there, we were not able to plug that. So that boil has been the center of what the issues are for us to restore that area and get the boat ramp operational again. There have been many discussions on how to proceed with this, but the most important one is conversations that we have with St. John's Water Management District. If you're not aware, St. John's Water Management District is the end-all be-all whenever it comes to water usage. And they have a very strong opinion and direction on how this boil needs to be taken care of. They have given us direction that boil does need to be plugged. There's been other conversations before we got to that point where it could possibly be used as a water feature, putting a dock around it and so forth. That's not the wishes and the direction of the St. John's Water Management District. Some of the conversations that we've had with them, because you basically have a artesian well that was hit, and those are geological factors that are very hard to see with the eye without actually looking down into the ground, which is very hard for us to do. There are some areas where the aquifer is inches away from the surface of the soil. There's other areas where they're 400 feet away from the surface of the soil. That's why sometimes you hear someone says that they have a well that they dug that was 400 feet and they hit flowing water. Or, hey, I've got an artesian well that's 30 feet deep, because the aquifer has very many caverns in it that go to different levels. So originally they were saying, hey, we don't know if we're going to require y'all to plug it, but the most recent conversations that we've had with them, they've said, we want you to plug it. But we need to see how much water is actually coming out of that boil. So the direction has been that they want us to dewater the site, meaning the area that we're looking at right here. It's kind of blurry to see. Google Images doesn't show that much detail for it. But at the very bottom of the picture is where we've added dirt to put around what we call sheet pilings, so that we could get the structure to be formed whenever we were building the project. So they want us to take that area right there, and they want us to take all of the water out with pumps so that they can see what the impact of the boil is. They want to see if it's 50 gallons a minute, if it's 200 gallons a minute, and so forth. Because a portion of that water and the impact to our cup is that if that boil is not plugged, that can be used against our consumptive use permit, because it's something that was not natural there and that we hit. So it could have a negative impact on what our consumptive use permit is. That's why it's so important that we follow their wishes and that we get that boil plugged. We're only allowed, as I said, a certain amount of water that we use daily out of the aquifer for groundwater usage. So we don't want that number decreased because of this. So how do we do that? Well, we've got to take and we've got to dewater it. We've got to have some geotechnical help from some contractors that are geotechnical engineers. So we've got to dewater it. We've got to have conversations with Florida Department of Environmental Protection, St. John's Water Management District, the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as our engineers and city staff, so that we can come up with a plan that's agreeable by all parties as to how to plug this boil. Good thing about it is the St. John's Water Management District, they have grants that are available for the plugging of this well. So the actual grouting of it, and that's the way that they plug it, is they take and the engineers, the geotechnical engineers, they will find voids where they can drill down to where the well is, and they put grout down into those voids, and it will fill that artesian boil, and it'll keep it from losing any more water. So they'll put grout here, they'll put it in another area, and it will flow into the well. So it has to be very, very technically engineered by that geotechnical person. The well plugging itself, there are grants for. It's the geotechnical portion that will not be a portion of the grant, so that will be what we will have to bear the cost of. Okay, so an important part of this project, and one of the reasons why this was, presented to us and presented to the St. John's Water Management District, was because the St. John's River is an impaired water body. Okay, if anybody's been out on the river, Lake Monroe or anything, you'll know that you can't actually see very far down inside of the water. There's a lot of tannins in the water, makes it very dark, and there's a lot of nutrients in that water as well, nutrients being nitrogen and phosphorus. So those nutrients that are added to the St. John's River are looked at very closely by the district, by the St. John's Water Management District. So this project was to take water that was in an impaired water body, clean that water. That's what the 4A project was to do, was to take and remove those nutrients, remove the nitrogen, remove the phosphorus, make the water so that it's potable, so that it is potentially drinkable, and then recharge the aquifer. Okay? So not having those benefits of offsetting of those nutrients impairs our consumptive use permit. It also impairs the ability for the flow out of the gates that we have out of the Teresa Basin. Because of the amount of flow and because of the nutrients that come from the Teresa Basin, that is what gives us kind of a threshold level of how much we can flow out, because we don't want to be adding a lot of nutrients already into an impaired water body. So the project would have allowed us to take nutrient-rich water from the Teresa Basin, put it into the St. John's River, Lake Monroe, whatever you want to call it, and then draw it back up, clean it, and improve that impaired water body. So that was an important piece of this project that we're now missing out on. Okay, so the project to date, okay, we've spent approximately $5 million on this project to date, and have little as far as being able to draw up that water from an impaired water body to offset the cup. To restore the site, to just fix what we have, the boil, and to dredge out the boat ramp, because as you saw in the picture, we dammed up that area. So there's a lot of dirt that's in the way. There's a lot of dirt in the way of the boat ramp. So there's a lot of dredging that needs to be done. There's sheet pilings that need to be removed. And those sheet pilings are roughly 15 to 20 feet down into the bottom of the lake. So it's not like you can just cut them off. That becomes a hazard, so they have to be pulled out. So site restoration will run us approximately $300,000 to fix that area. But more importantly, we have to look at how we can do it geotechnically so that we don't create further issues restoring it. So it's not a very quick process. As I said before, some of the benefits that we have not received are those groundwater withdrawal limitations. That's very important to the city. The amount of water that we can use each and every day is extremely important to the city. We also don't have a cleaner water body. As stewards of the environment and stewards of the resources that we have, we need to be looking at projects that we do that use some sort of alternative water supply so that we're not using the precious resources that we have in the aquifer. And another limitation that we have is possible city growth limitations. We only have a certain amount of water that we can use. There's no new water that's made. The amount of water that is on this earth today is the same amount of water that was on this earth many, many years ago. So it's not being made new. So we have to be good stewards and use the water that is on the surface that we have available to us. So we're losing out on that limitation as well. So where do we go from here? I know that everyone, and myself being an avid boater, we all want the boat ramp to be restored. Okay, and we want it restored as quickly as possible. But we have to be smart about how we do it, because there's been many iterations. As you heard me say, there was talk of not plugging the boil and putting a dock around it. There's been many ideas of what we should do with it, but we keep going back to that one department that has so much persuasion over what happens with water, being the St. John's Water Management District, and their desire to plug this boil. So that's one of the things that we have to do. We have to listen to the wisdom that they have and abide by, how they're directing us to go about plugging that boil. Right now, there is a lot of overgrowth on it. On the 15th of January, we engaged with a company called Applied Aquatics, who they have the licensing to deal with any sort of vegetation that is in any sort of state water body. They're going to be removing the overgrown vegetation. They're going to be doing it by hand, and then they're also going to be doing some ongoing maintenance to keep it so that until we do get the site fully restored, it will not be an eyesore. We also have to have a site evaluation with all of those parties on site. We've got to have the contractor to dewater it, so we have to have help with that. We've got to get that geotechnical evaluation, and more importantly, we've got to have St. John's there to give us final direction as to how they want us to plug that. There are many ways to do it, but we have to have their buy-in and have to have their acceptance of how we move forward with it. But more importantly, we have to think about the benefits that we're losing from this project, the growth that we could potentially lose, the amount of cup modifications that we can have. So we would like to go back and look to see if there is any sort of viable alternative project solution to this, so that we can utilize the infrastructure that we've already built, that we've already bought, to see that we have reduction of the limitations from this project. Okay? Questions?
Thank you, Jim. Are there any questions? We'll go to Commissioner Howington first.
So I've actually got a few. Number one, this project, we're pulling water from the lake to recharge the aquifer. And we're talking about recharging reclaim. I live in a community that's been told for about a year that we have no water in the city of Deltona. I think we can all agree that's not the case. Why would we be pulling water from the lake versus from the basin. We have a closed basin and there's no place for that water to go. Why are we not looking at options that are going to keep our residents from flooding?
There's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is distance. Okay, so the distance from the 4A site to the 4B site is about 1.5 miles. So you've got 1.5 miles of pipe. And the typical cost for piping, for installation of pipe, is somewhere in the neighborhood of around $300 a linear foot. So the distance to go from the north side of the Teresa Basin all the way over to the 4A site is quite a bit of more money to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that that's not a project that we need to look at to be able to do in addition to this. But if you have the lake water withdrawal, you're able to potentially more flow out of the Teresa Basin so that you're staging that at a level that is not where we currently have to. Because if we're able to flow more water out of the basin, then because of the nutrient levels, we're able to offset those nutrient loads with what we're cleaning and putting down into the aquifer. Now, we have many challenges, one being getting water from the northern basin all the way to the southern basin. So we may see that during this Teresa Basin study that's a recommendation that they do as well. But the location of where the river is to where the 4A site is one of the reasons why we would like to continue to see if there's a viable option for this project.
Okay. And if we plug the well, because it is a chain, is there a risk of another section opening up, and would we be responsible for that?
There's always a risk with any sort of geotechnical work that you do, but with the way that the conversations that we've had so far would be that we would be putting the grout in areas where there are not voids so that we're plugging that one. The one that we had on the inland side was able to be plugged, as I said, with just adding pressure or head pressure on top of it by putting dirt on it. Depending upon how much flow you have, that will sometimes determine the procedure that you use to plug a well. That's why it's important that St. John's has said that we need to actually see what the boil is doing and how they would recommend that we get it plugged.
Okay. This brings another question. Obviously, there wasn't a geological survey done before they did the work on this site. Is that something that we can start looking into in the future when we do projects so that we know what's under the ground? I think you mentioned that we can't just tell by looking at it, so we need somebody to tell us before we start projects so we don't end up with situations like this again.
Yes, ma'am. They did, Glenn Whitcomb, Public Works Director, they did do geotech work on that site. They just missed those veins, those particular veins for those springs. And we do. Any project that we go to do that we have to dig, deep like that, absolutely, we have geotech work done.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I guess the next one that I had is, why would it be Deltona's job to clean the St. John's water? I mean, I can't see using the excuse that our residents need to pay for that so that we can build more houses, because what I'm hearing is we don't have enough water to expand. I think a lot of people here don't want to expand, if I'm hearing our residents. And so by increasing the amount of water we can use, we're just allowing more houses to come in. Is that kind of what's going to happen?
One of the issues is, and ma'am, Commissioner, sorry. One of the issues is in the drought time, in the summertime, we don't get rain. Our reserves of reclaim dry up, or they go down, our levels go down. So this project was also to augment the reclaim. In other words, to treat water, add it to the reclaim for irrigation, because there are times during the summer in the dry months, and sometimes it might go for a couple of years, that we don't have enough reclaim to put out for irrigation. Part of our CUP says that we have to have this irrigation reclaim, and that we have to expand our reclaim lines, to the different areas of the city, which we have been working on. We had a few projects back in starting, I think, 2018, 2019, that did that. We went in and retrofitted 2 or 3 older subdivisions to put reclaim in. And then all the new subdivisions, if the reclaim's in the area, they have to put the lines in, the dry lines in, so that we can provide reclaim once it becomes available. But there's only so much available in the sewer plants whenever we treat the sewer. We're only getting about 50% return for the reclaim versus what we treat in the sewer. So there's not enough water to supply, even at times, like I said, when we have droughts and all. So that's the reason we're pulling the water out. To augment the reclaim. And then also we have a project slated for a deep injection well, or ASR well, as Jim mentioned earlier. And Jim, I didn't mean to step in here, but that well will be able to take water from the river, treat it, put it down in that well and store it, pull it out when we need it. When we start having droughts for the reclaim, where we need the water, we can pull that water back out and treat it with the reclaim and augment it. So there's a lot of good benefits to this. The issue is the project, the way it was designed. There's other designs that we can do that we can still make this project work if it's the will of the commission. So that's pretty much what we wanted to talk about tonight.
Okay. Remaining costs. Last question, I promise. What remaining cost on the project if we were to proceed with it? Just real quick, ballpark, nothing scientific.
Okay, so we had a meeting today to discuss it a little further. We've got some preliminary numbers. We're looking somewhere around 4 million or so, 4 to 5 million to finish it up. There are possibilities that we could look at other entities in the area, such as Volusia County and maybe some other cities that might be willing to go in with us on this. I don't know that was done in the beginning. I'm not sure that other areas were asked, but that's something that we're willing to do, is take it to the county and to other entities to see, if we can get some additional help. Also pursue additional grant fundings. Even though we had a grant to do the project in the beginning, we weren't able to complete it. But St. John's is behind us 100% to try to find another way to make it work if it's y'all's will.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Avila-Vasquez.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I know that some people think that this project was something the city wanted to do. And that's not the case, is it?
There's a consortium of the West Volusia water suppliers. That includes Orange City, it includes DeLand, Volusia County, and Deltona. And all of the water issues are a regional problem because we are situated around Blue Springs, Gemini Springs, Green Springs, so forth. And the St. John's Water Management District said, okay, in order for all of you, this is one of the reasons why Glenn mentioned that we want to go to other entities to see if they want to partner on this. All of you have to reduce the amount of water that you're using by X amount, or you need to do alternative water projects. And you need to do them by such and such date, and they actually put it into our consumptive use permit that you will do X, Y, and Z by a certain amount of time, or you will lose the amount of water that you're using in your consumptive use permit. So they said you have X number of gallons that you have to reduce. These are the projects that we recommend that you do, and this was one of them.
And unfortunately, the city of Deltona is the biggest users of that water. We sit practically all of Deltona sits.
With the population that we have in that area, we hold about 40% of the population throughout DeLand, Orange City, Deltona, and Volusia County.
And in order for us to continue having water, we have to abide by this project that is required by St. John's Water Management.
Correct. Either this one or some alternative project. Correct.
Okay. Is there any, and I know that this is probably not the problem that people are complaining about. What they're important, for us, this is the important part, right? Fixing this
Correct.
hole and whatever. But what residents are looking for is their ramp,
The boat ramp.
their boater ramp. 'Cause
Completely understand
I don't think, until now, I don't think anyone had a deep idea of what this project was all about and how it happened and what happened. You did a good explanation, and thank you so much for that. Can that ramp be moved over, or over in the same area, maybe a floating boat ramp that can be put in a little safer area?
Part of our discussions today, ma'am, were alternatives for where the location of the boat ramp might be.
In that
But
area?
those are, yes, ma'am, in the same area. Those are just discussions that we need to, because anytime that you do any sort of altering of any water body, you have to include those regulatory agencies to get approval for it. But that's definitely conversations that we've had internally in the city.
Okay, one last question, and I know this has nothing to do with the lake, but it was caused because of this project. So are we replacing the trees that were removed for the B project along the back of the Little Red Schoolhouse using tree funds?
Yes, that was one of our also discussions today of in what point do we invest into the landscaping before we finalize the actual layout of what's happening here, but it's definitely coming. That whole park could use a lot of landscaping and redo, so that without a doubt that is coming, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And one thing to keep in mind, and I hate to interrupt, but one thing to keep in mind, and I think Jim mentioned it earlier, is that if we do not try to do this project, and we've been talking to St. John's, they're really heavily behind us wanting to come up with an alternative. We're going to have to do alternative projects and spend money anyway. If we can make this work, it's going to be better for all parties.
And that's why I wanted to, sorry. That's why I was asking the question so that everyone can hear that it's not a project that the city wanted to get involved with. It's a project that is required by St. John's Water Management so that we can continue using the water that we currently have. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Lilly.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd just like to give the disclaimer. The company I work for may or may not have a business relationship with any number of the consultants on this project. Can you tell us, because you used the phrase, and I just want to make sure the public understands, what is a RIB?
RIB means rapid infiltration basin. If we look at this picture here, you see the big sand pits? That's a rapid infiltration basin. What we do is any sort of excess reclaim, say for example, say the demand that day was 800,000 gallons, but we produced 1 million gallons of reclaim. The excess of 200,000 we would put into one of those ribs, and it would eventually percolate down into the aquifer.
In Daytona Beach, they send the excess to Tiger Bay State Forest now, at least I know this project, that's how they handle it. Is that
correct?
A different way? You mentioned, and Commissioner Howard brought this up in the same vein, you had mentioned the Tivoli Pump Station and the Nardello Pond Pump Station. So those are two locations where it's sending water to this site?
Already, yes.
So I think to her point, there could be an opportunity as part of our basin study to look at additional pumps.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. And those are our points that we've brought up to Adora, who is doing our Teresa Basin study, that we do have this as an option for portions of that water to look at in the Teresa Basin as well.
You mentioned the grant to plug the artesian well. How much, do you know how much that covers?
The figures that we have from our consultant today was we're looking at probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 worth of just grout to plug this boil, and there's matching funds for that to be able to get those wells plugged.
We've been talking about this a long time. I think actually if I remember the ribbon cutting video correctly, I think there's only one person on this dais who was here at the time for that. So that's how long it's been, and we've been through, I don't know, between the acting and interims, 5, 6, 7, 8 city managers. Why has this drawn out so long and we're still talking about it? Because I think it failed, so to speak, 2 years ago or more?
Yes. We've been drawn in different directions in different times. But as I said, even though we've been drawn in different directions of what the city wishes to do, the one thing that has been constant is that St. John's has said you need to plug the boil.
Okay, and that's, I think, tonight's the first time I've heard that point, so that's really important. I think that's what I got for now. Thank you, appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Commissioner Lilly. I've got a couple questions myself. You mentioned that there was a water storing capacity across the street. What was the purpose of pumping water out of the lake and then storing it across the street before it was ultimately pumped to the rib site?
Well, there were two different, in this iteration that was designed, there were two different pump stations. One was to simply draw it out of the lake, or draw it into an area, holding area, that was somewhat clean. Mm-hmm. That's what that wet well was on the lake side of it. And then there were pumps on the upland side that would then take that water that was in that concrete structure and pump it over to the 4A site.
Okay, is there a way to complete this project without those additionals so that water is pulled directly from the lake and sent directly to the rib site?
That is the direction for the consultants that we're using that has been recommended.
Okay.
There's several other of these throughout the St. Johns River Basin, and those are the types that are used as well, where it pulls directly out of the river and pumps it to where it needs to go. Prior administration wanted the two different pieces so that it was below ground. There were some things that were said to prior administration that said, hey, this is the only way that we're going to go to with it, and we won't look at any sort of other alternatives.
Okay, thank you for that. That's good information. Do we have a time frame on completion of the grouting of the well, the 4B component of this project, and then at that point we can begin restoration on the park and the boat ramp or any whatever?
For the 4B restoration, there are a couple pieces that play into this. Number one is the consultant that we use. We have to get firm numbers from them, be able to come back to the commission and get a task authorization. They are working on that right now, so that we can come to y'all and say, this is what this consultant is going to charge us to get us through the finish line of plugging the boil, getting the dredging done, and getting the boat ramp portion back open. So we've got to get that first, come to the commission, get approval for those dollar amounts, and then be able to start the work. So
not holding you to it, just ballpark,
6 to 8 months.
Less than a year.
Correct.
So we'll round it up to a year.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Let's manage the expectations. Yes. I think everybody would agree that the faster the better.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, to the city manager's point earlier, I think it's also important that we don't spend the dollar twice if we don't have to.
Right.
Last question that I have. It's my understanding that one of the limiting factors on how much we can potentially pump out, or not pump, but release from the Teresa Basin is the water quality within the Teresa Basin and the fact that the St. John's Lake Monroe is a BMAP. And so it does have those nutrient restrictions on it. And the Teresa Basin exceeds those nutrient restrictions. So would, by pumping out of Lake Monroe and cleaning that water, would that difference affect the potential allowable discharges from the Teresa Basin?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
We've had conversations with St. John's about that.
So it's not just pulling water out of St. John or out of Lake Monroe, cleaning Lake Monroe water,
Correct.
for the benefit of everybody else. There is a direct benefit to residents.
In the eye of St. John's, it's cleaning the water that Deltona is discharging into Lake Monroe.
Yep, it's just cleaning it after it's been discharged into Lake Monroe versus before it discharges.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation today.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, part of staff's presentation today was kind of get a consensus from the commission to move forward on some bid processes, not to spend unbudgeted money, but to come back later, but to move forward on this, to correct what's happening here. So as long as commission's okay.
Is there consensus
for
from
staff
Yeah, can we just go down the road? And then we're asking...
Basically, to go start the bid process for some of these consultants and move forward with the caulking
get more
situation.
information?
Yes, and then bring back, of course, when contracts are put in place, we'd still bring them back to you.
Yes, I'm in agreement to moving forward. However, I do want to stipulate if we can make sure that we get with the county and the surrounding cities and make sure we look into any grants that'll help us with this project and not just solely be the responsibility of the city.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Commissioner Harrington?
Yes.
Commissioner Vila?
Yes.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a presentation. Nope. Huh? We don't do public comments on presentation. Can I get an opinion from legal on public comments for presentations? I don't think that's consistent with how
Vice Mayor, public comment is not required for presentations.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I know there's...
I'm sorry, point of order. It's not required, but is it allowed?
The commission as a body and the presiding officer certainly can permit it, but it is not a practice that has been observed. It's historically in presentations in recent history, but certainly you are permitted to permit them, and the presiding officer certainly could allow it, particularly if the commission...
Commissioner, would you like us to get a consensus to allow?
Yes, I do, only because we have some residents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Present. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Commissioner Santiago?
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington?
Yes.
Avila Vasquez? Steve? Lowey?
Yes.
I'm yes. So do we have any?
Rachel Amoroso?
Rachel Amoroso, Sweet Gum Woods Court, Deltona. I got told by 3 people on the way up to be nice, so I guess I have to be nice. I am the manager of Edgewater Condominiums, which bumps up right against this project. I was just looking at our first meeting with the city, which was in April, I believe, of 2022, when you guys first came out to talk to us. What Maritza said about the project, I think it was unfair to say that the commission really had anything to do with it at the beginning. If you look past all the paperwork, there was no votes on it and where the location was and stuff like that. But what we want to see, we are, 1,000 or more Deltona taxpayers there in that little area. We'd like to see the trees back. We'd like to see it cleaned up. Of course, the boat ramp back. That was a big part of our community. Not that we allow boats, but we have friends with boats. So, but one thing is, I'm still waiting for your email, so if I can get that. I sent you an email to meet. There's a couple of things that we could do pretty quickly to get it just cleaned up a little bit. Remove some of the signs that say the boat ramp's going to be open in 2023. Just clean up a little bit of the area that you guys made look nice where we can watch the sunset and stuff like that. But the fact of you saying that within a year we might have a boat ramp back is very good, but definitely don't want to drop the ball and continue to see this on agendas, because it was definitely one of the highlights of Deltona was that area. The community center, the Little Red Schoolhouse, the boat ramp, and you really took a big part of our community away from it. They took a big part. So whatever we can do to get it done would be great.
Thank you.
Jim Pesha, please.
Jim Pesha, Deltona. Thank you for the presentation. I found it very interesting. It also raised a lot of questions in my mind. First one, pumping stations. How much noise? Is it going to be loud? Is it going to disrupt the community that's right next door to it? Is it going to ruin the serenity of our boat ramp? Second question, pollution, nutrients in the water. Where are they coming from that we have to take them out? By not understanding that most of the water pollution that we're getting is from lawn fertilizers, pesticides, basically from our residents and our housings. I hear we need reclaimed water. Why do we need the reclaimed water? To irrigate our lawns. So we're creating our own problem. By irrigating our lawns that are fertilized, we're creating the nutrients that run into the lake that we have to clean up. Is there an alternative? Word I heard mentioned several times, an alternative. Did you know that 50% of our potable water that we create is used for irrigation? For our lawns. We're saying we need more water. We have to worry about our cup. The cup is being used to irrigate our lawns. 50% of our cup is used for our lawns. We have to increase our water capacity. Why don't we reduce the amount of lawns? We don't have as much irrigation. We increase our potable water that's available to the residents. If we go to native landscaping, we don't have to worry about drought. It's drought tolerant because it's native to our area. And it doesn't need the fertilizers. It solves an awful lot of our problems. Florida-friendly landscapes, ever hear of it? The state of Florida promotes it all the time. But what do we put in? Turf. A foreign product that's not native to our area. And we have to fertilize it to make it grow. We have to treat it with chemicals to keep it alive. And we have to water it twice as much as normal just to have a foreign, non-usable product. Can we change our codes to promote native landscaping? Make it more Florida-friendly, make it less polluting and less demanding on our water supply as an alternative concept. That's just my question. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pesha. At this point, we'll go to consent agenda item 7. And I think that we have Avila Vasquez on the board.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to pull item C.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to pull any other items? Do we have a motion for?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve, am I in the right?
Hold on one second.
Oh.
Commissioner.
I was going to say the same thing, sir. You're going to make a motion for A and B?
Yes.
Okay, continue. I'll second it.
Okay. Motion to approve A and B, consent agenda A and B.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Avila Vasquez and a motion seconded by Commissioner Lully. I think we'll go to item C. Item C is the resolution declaring zoning in progress for establishment of classifications, official zone map, and of Chapter 110 zoning of the Land Development Code, and to provide architectural design guidelines for non-residential development.
I'd like to make a motion.
Do we have any? Yes.
I move to declare legislation in progress and approve resolution number 2025-20.
I second.
That's a pull. We just pulled.
Yeah, we'll go to discussion in a moment. So we've got a motion and a second.
Motion to pull item?
Commissioner, even though the item is pulled, it would still be appropriate for it to have a motion and a second on the floor in order to provide discussion. Certainly, I believe you're looking for a staff report on this item. Prior, as is...
A staff report and comment.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Howington, second by Commissioner Santiago. Now, do we have any comments, discussion from the rest of the commission? And I think Commissioner Avila Vasquez.
Yes. First one on me. But anyway, again, I'm not against this item C. I do want to add to the motion and this is why I wanted to make my comments first, that a workshop be held between this commission and P&Z board before the second motion comes up, only because I watched their meeting and they lacked so much information on this item when it came for them to vote on it, that it was turned down by the P&Z board. I think it's only fair that they be brought up to the same standards of knowledge of what we're voting for. So I don't have a problem with approving it, the first motion, but I would like to have a workshop between P&Z board and the commission before the second motion comes up.
Commissioner Howington, would you like to amend your motion?
Yes, I'll amend to include the workshop.
Thank you.
Seconder, agree? Okay. Are there any other comments from the commission? No? I'd also like to echo some of your comments. I wanted to pull this item because I think it's something that we need to highlight. It's a lot of this was brought to a prior commission a decade ago or more, and I think this is something that a lot of residents have been asking for, updates to the land development code. This is something that I hear about from my neighbors constantly. So this is one of many first steps in updating the land development code. Commissioner.
Yes, I just have a question for staff. How does this new code apply to existing businesses that look horrible at this moment?
Good evening, Jordan Smith, Planning Director. This would not apply to existing businesses unless they're doing 50% or more renovations, but that would have to be in the new regulations, but it would not apply to existing businesses.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Can we go for a vote? Okay, motion passes, or item passes 5-1. Well, this time we'll go to agenda item number 8, ordinances, public hearings. We've got item A, request for a resolution requesting a variance to allow for an increase in maximum lot coverage. Is there a motion for item A? Oh.
Yes, I'd like to approve Resolution 2024-65.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lowley, a second by Commissioner Howington. Discussion, we've got Commissioner Avila Vasquez on the board.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I have a couple of questions for staff.
Yes.
So I know that I received an answer from Jessica, but there's no flooding on that empty lot behind them where it's all shrubs in the back?
Correct. There's no history of flooding.
Okay. I also saw and read that this project was approved by their HOA. and that the HOA will be doing inspection when this project is finalized. Is the city also going to be involved in this, being that it's inside an HOA?
100% it has to get inspection by the building department.
Okay.
And it has to follow the zoning classification, which is 35% lot coverage, which it exceeds at the current time.
And the owner is responsible to notify utilities, digging and stuff, or is that will be the city's responsibility?
It is the homeowner's responsibility to contact utilities before digging, correct?
The owner?
Yes.
Okay, now, I know that building a pool is going to change the elevation of the property. Is that going to affect any of the residents on the side if something should happen with the flooding and anything like that?
It shouldn't. Those are the things that planning will look at when we review the application.
Okay, I just wanted to bring those things up so that we make sure that the neighbors know that the city is going to be looking into this, because it will change the elevation. And so just going forward, that the city's aware of this. Thank you, Jordan, for the information.
Okay.
Next, we've got Commissioner Santiago.
I was just going to second it. Thank you.
Commissioner Howington.
Just to confirm, they changed the maximum lot coverage to 39.5%?
It's currently at 39.5%, correct?
Okay.
Which
So
still
they did
exceeds
drop
our-
it below the 40, where the neighbors within Arbor Ridge are also having variance allowances. Different phase, but within the same subdivision.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And I had made a commitment that if they heard us, that I would support it. So I intend to stick by my word on that.
Commissioner Caldwell.
As was asked, the property behind there, is that a stormwater retention or storage facility?
I do not believe so, but I can get that verified for you.
All right, I believe it is.
Okay.
Are they the original owners of the home?
Yes, they are.
All right, so when they built the house, they knew that they were at their maximum limit with the size of the house they built?
They should know that when buying a house, yes.
Okay. I think we need to be careful moving forward with these requests. How do we allow one and not the rest of them? That's all I have.
Commissioner Lowley.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think I made clear at the last public hearing for this that I don't think we should be in the business of discussing these items. I don't think that's the norm in other municipalities. I think that their commissions don't get involved in this level of items. I just wanted to address Commissioner Villa-Vasquez. I'll tell you, from my own pool, there was really rigorous inspections, and my pool return lines are actually 3 feet down. They're below my potable water line in this city. So actually, the pool return lines are somehow safer than the line that I drink out of. So there was definitely a rigorous inspection process when I did that. Final comment: we have homes in my district that are 60% lot coverage, where it's the actual structure is can take up 60% of the lot, and is, because those were plan unit developments that were approved not by me but by others that allow that sort of density. So again, I don't want to be in the business of being a city that approves 40-foot lots, but we're deny someone a swimming pool. So that's why I made the motion. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lowley. I've got just a couple comments. I want to echo what Commissioner Caldwell said. I don't think that I think we need to be careful about approving variances for things that are already set in place. There's a reason why we have lot coverage percentages, and I think it's less about the neighbor and more about the neighborhood as a whole. If you start covering a neighborhood to a greater extent, the lots within a neighborhood to a greater extent, then you put a greater burden on the stormwater infrastructure, not flooding out the neighbor, but with the retention ponds and the stormwater system within that area. So if everybody in the neighborhood came up and wanted a variance to go to 40% or heaven forbid 50 or 60%, then that would put a much greater burden because you're reducing the impervious surface. To Commissioner Howington's point, we've made this accommodation to other neighbors within the community for, very similar accommodations. So just would like to see us be a little more careful in the future about approving variances and setting precedent. Can we go to a vote? All right,
Vice
motion
Mayor,
passes.
if you have to open public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have anybody for public comment on that item? No? Okay. Motion, sorry, thank you guys. Motion passes 5-1. We'll go to item B, request for approval, resolution 25-18, consolidated annual performance evaluation, CAPR. Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Commissioner Avila-Vasquez, second by Commissioner Caldwell. Any comments, discussion? None? Do we go to public comment? Do we have no public comment? All right, can we vote? All right, motion passes 6-0. Item C, under ordinances and public hearings, keep in mind this item also corresponds to item A, 9A. Item 8C is a request approval of ordinance number 08-2025, which amends the firefighters pension plan drop age at first reading.
I'd like to make a motion.
Motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Avila-Vasquez, second by.
I'd just like to add a comment to my motion. I have been attending so many retirement events from the fire department, and we have been losing so many good employees, so many good firemen because of this 60-year restriction, that I am 200% in favor of this new age. Thank you.
We've got a motion to approve by Commissioner Avila, a second by Steve Caldwell. Any discussion? No discussion? Commissioner Lowley.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Financially, what does this do for the city? I mean, to me, on paper, it seems like if you're increasing the age someone can retire at, there's less of a cost. And then my second question would be, this was part of the collective bargaining agreement from a year or two ago, right?
Yes, on the second one, it was part of the collective bargaining agreement. You're asking what the benefit to the city is? Basically, the benefit to the city would be that...
cost to the city.
Oh, I'm sorry, the cost to the city. The pension actuarial did an evaluation of it, determined there was no cost to the city or the plan.
Thank you.
And to clarify, this is just increasing the age that we're forcing somebody to retire. So
yes, yeah. Once you enter the drop right now, you can only go till you're age 60. If you had more years eligible, you can go to a max of 8 years as long as you're under 60. But if you hit that age of 60, like Chief DeBose did not too long ago, you have to leave at that point.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Can we go public comment? Do we have any public comment? No public comment? Can we go to a vote?
I'll read the title of the ordinance. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deltona, Florida, amending and revising the provisions of Chapter 46, Article 2, Firefighters Pension Plan of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Deltona by amending Section 46-54, Deferred Retirement Option Plan, to extend the age limit for participation in the drop to age 65, providing for codification, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
And by the way, the union president, Brandon Brower, is here as well.
Do you have any comments?
No, I appreciate the city manager, city attorney working on the language and getting it in the agenda for us, and I appreciate you guys making that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. And all right, motion passes 6-0. We've got item 9A.
I move.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Santiago. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Howington. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, do we have any public comment? No public comment, can we vote?
I just want to say, does this mean that Dean can come back?
No. Thank
That
you.
means he would-
Appreciate it.
That means he would have to remove his earring.
And shave his beard.
All right, and 9B has been pulled from the agenda, so we're on to city attorney comments. Any city attorney comments?
Thank you very much. We do not have any comments at this time. Thank you so much.
Do we have any city manager comments?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Real quick, the University of Notre Dame did not lose last night. They did run out of time. They ran out of time. I do believe if they had another quarter, there is a chance. More importantly, though, the 1 in 5 Foundation for Kids, it's a group that was formed in response to mass school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, has chosen the city of Deltona as a nominee at this point for an official site for its National School Gun Violence Memorial. Apparently, Sheriff Mike Chitwood's aggressive stance towards school threats has enabled Deltona to be nominated for this award. If accepted, the city would receive a unique school gun violence memorial. So we'll learn more about that in the future. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's it. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Commission comments, requests, reports, District 2, Commissioner Santiago.
Yeah, just real quick, I just wanted to say thank you to Mike Williams and Commissioner Avila Vasquez for the MLK luncheon that happened at the center on Sunday. It was very nice. I just want to say thank you very much.
Commissioner Howington.
Okay, I have a request, a couple of requests actually, and so I'm going to read them off to make sure that I'm very concise in my request. So this request is for the city manager and our city attorneys. I'm not a politician, and I'm just an accountant. I've tried to do research on my own and have found the topic of impact fees to be confusing, to say the least. Our city's impact fees and their history are a consuming mess. The best that I can ascertain is that we had a study done in 2015 and did not fully accept the findings of the study and only really increased impact fees on commercial growth, which we don't really have here in Deltona. We're building houses. We didn't fully accept the impact fees at that time on residential housing. A study was also done in 2021, which we paid for, but was not even brought up at a regular commission meeting, even though the study recommended increases in residential impact fees. Apparently, it went to a workshop only and never went to a regular meeting. We paid for this study and didn't even bring it up at a meeting. I cannot understand why then Mayor Heidi Herzberg, or even still serving Commissioner Avila Vasquez, did not see fit to even discuss a report that we must have paid more than $100,000 for, that recommended that developers pay their fair share for their new homes that they're building in our community. Our city has paid a lot, and I mean a lot, for these studies. The last impact fee study in 2021 and the Teresa Basin flood study that we do all the time. I think we do one about once every 5 years. We do nothing with them. We just waste the residents' tax dollars on meaningless studies with no action. I'm requesting that you put together a report on Deltona's impact fees beginning with 2015 and what actions we have actually taken. Why was the study in 2021 not moved on, as well as how many single-family and multi-family units have been built since then. I'd like to know how much money we could have collected if we had moved on the studies and increased impact fees as proposed, rather than waiting 10 years and doing nothing. One of the few things I could find on the 2015 study was the recommendation that we conduct an impact fee study every 5 years. Given that it's been 10 years since we last acted on a study, I would like for you to get a price on a new impact fee study from Stantec and Benesich, 2 companies that are used locally and seem to have a great following for neighboring cities and counties. I'd also like to know what other impact fees we can charge for but are not. I see cities charging general government and stormwater impact fees, but we do not. What is the complete list of fees that we can charge for? Many of our surrounding cities of similar size and growth, like Palm Coast, are substantially increasing impact fees to save their residents money. We are seeing price increases on public safety, fire, transportation, and infrastructure, which have to be addressed, but not with tax increases paid by our existing residents. It's time that we take the steps necessary to adjust our fees accordingly. Also, I cannot seem to find another city that has not moved on impact fees for over a decade. Is there some meaningful reason why Deltona is different from everyone else? Because I can't seem to figure that out myself. And that's it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Avila Vasquez. Yeah, Emma did. Yeah, she thanked you. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Emma. Appreciate it. Well, the request first. I would like to find out what the status is of our welcome sign on the I-4 exit on Saxon Boulevard. I don't know if this is city manager and the PIO. It's been missing for quite a few months now, and I don't know what the status of it is, or if it has been ordered or finished, or...
Saxon and what?
Exit 111 on Saxon. There used to be a sign there that says, "Welcome to Deltona." It was an old sign, and it was out of commission. They took it all out, and it was supposed to be replaced. So just asking for the status of it. I also want to request, I don't know if I have to go to the city manager or get a consensus from the attorney, from the commission here. I prefer a consensus. February 21st, there's going to be a Meet Your Veterans at the Veterans Park, and they're requesting that if the city can sponsor with the hamburgers and hot dogs, and that's from Pedro Rosario's request. So I wanted to find about that. And I just want to let everybody know that one more request. If we can have a PIO present at Thursday's self-defense class that is being held over at the center. It's an event sponsored by the Sheriff's Department and the City of Deltona. Unfortunately, it is booked. They were looking for 75 registrations. They got 140. She can only take 125. But there's going to be another one later on in the year as we're looking to see when we're going to schedule it. Those of you who did register and receive a confirmation, please don't forget it's free, but we expect you to bring a donation of non-perishable items, food pantries, items that are going to be donated to our local elementary schools. And yes, I also want to give a big shout out for the MLK event. It was a great event. It was the biggest turnout I've ever seen in all the years that I've attended. And Doc, you did such a good job.
Thank you.
I put Doc up on stage to do the greetings from the city of Deltona.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Everyone have a good time.
Commissioner, did you ask for consensus on an item in that?
Oh, yes, I did. On the city providing hamburgers and hot dogs for the Meet Your Veterans event at the Veterans Park.
Is that an event that we're putting on?
It's an event put on by the group that's run by former Commissioner King and Pedro Rosario, and the city hopefully will be participating in it.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's something that needs to be brought up on the agenda or if it can be a consensus right now.
Up to the commission.
We'll just go down the line and get consensus.
I just want to say to be careful when we're asking for, I know one item was pulled to help Deltona High School. We just need to be careful. We have policies and procedures in place that takes care of this. I'm not saying I'm not supportive of any group, of any kids, of it just sets a precedence. So for me, it's what the cost it will be. I'm sure hot dogs and hamburgers is not a lot, but just be careful in the future when we're bringing these up. What is the cost to the city, and do we want to do that? Let's look about changing the policies and procedures if we're going to to comment or bring stuff back to the commission for approval on items. So, but for this right now, today, no, I'm okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Vila?
Yes, and I just want to explain to Commissioner Santiago, the item was pulled because it was already been taken care of. And so we didn't see the need to bring it to the commission, but it has already been taken care of financially.
That's a very modest response,
Yes.
Commissioner. Commissioner Caldwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Lilly?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Caldwell?
Yes, I have a request. I was going to go into a conversation about getting a rental registration program here in the city, but it's come to my attention that we're already working on one, so I don't know if I need to ask consensus or get consensus or request that we bring this to the next meeting, if possible.
So we have already started working with Jordan and Jessica on this. I know that it's a longer burn for us, but we can move it quicker to get to the February meeting.
Do I need consensus on this, or?
No, I mean, we're happy to just move it faster because we've already started working on it. It was just going to come a little bit later in the life cycle, but we can, I know Jordan already left, but we can just put our foot to the gas and get it ready for February.
Commissioner Caldwell, if you don't mind, could we get a consensus and also add in short-term rentals into this specifically?
Meaning Airbnb?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So if we can get consensus to ask direct staff to look into the rental ordinance as well as short-term.
All rentals. So.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fine.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Avila Vasquez?
Yes.
Caldwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Lilly?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. Anything else, Commissioner Caldwell?
That's it.
Commissioner Lilly, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Hey, when we were switched around, it's like maybe it makes sense. Thanks, and thanks everyone for the lively discussion. We got some good points up. I took notes, and I'm going to weigh in on a couple of those since it came up. I'll go on what I heard first. Event sponsorship policy, yes, would love to know, because I don't know. So I'd love to know what that is. And on that topic, I'm wondering if we could have, sometimes I'm like, well, do we need a workshop on this, or do we need this? Can we do information-only items on our agenda? So, for example, whatever the current sponsorship policy is, if we can bring that maybe as an information-only item on the agenda, give us time to look at it, and then the next meeting we can have a fuller discussion on it. 'Cause I've seen other local governments do that. I don't know if that's something you guys don't like, or something. No?
We'll just have to discuss what you're referring to specifically, but
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that won't be an issue.
I'd also like to hear more about that when the time's appropriate.
Yeah, and just instead of, like we had a full invitation tonight about Lakeshore, sometimes there's something where if it's just a piece of information and we all need to see it, letters that come, anything. So thank you. I heard about impact fees. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that we need to address that. I also was aware that there'd been a past study done that wasn't acted on, so I think our team now has the ability to bring that to us, and I look forward to hearing more about that. And of course, if there's a specific commercial type of development that we want, just because our impact fees for something are up here, we're able to make deals and bring it down to here for the things that we want. So I think that's a really important conversation to have, so thank you for bringing that up. A couple other things I had tonight. I appreciate, again, the presentation for Lakeshore. That was great. I'm going to step on Commissioner Santiago's toes here, but that's because I'm an honorary member of District 2 when I go to Starbucks every day. Too much. $7 now a pop. There's some issues with that plot, the whole complex now. There's, as far as, do you know where I'm going with this?
Oh, I went to Panda Express last night for dinner.
We're lacking inner sight.
Yes.
Traffic control. So, you have intersections where there's no stop sign and you have cross traffic. We also have large trucks that park along the ingress and egress points into that whole development, which is a problem. Again, I'm there every day, unfortunately, and I've gone head on with people. And you can't, I was there the other day with school getting out, and you have the pedestrian traffic added too, and it's not fun. So if we can look at that, I don't know, because I believe the actual roadway system in the back is owned by Deltona Retail Holdings, not the individual, like Starbucks owns their own lot, but the actual infrastructure is owned by the larger entity. So if we can just take a look at, I don't know if that's a public works issue or a planning issue.
Commissioner, just so you know, we've already spoken with planning, and they're looking at the site plan so that we can ensure that there is compliance with the PUD. If there's not compliance with the PUD, we certainly can take action. If they are in compliance with the PUD and there's still issues, we can work with them and come back, and they'll come back to you, and obviously Doc will come back to you with some alternate ideas. But we are working on that to see if the site plan already is supposed to have traffic controls that have not been put in place and they're out of compliance.
Thank you.
We'll get you an update.
Cool. Final thing, tonight, Vineland Reserve is a planned unit development in my district. I'm continuing to get some concerns from them. And I've confirmed with staff that the stormwater ponds in that community are, there were some unpermitted changes made, and they're not operating as they should be. So I know staff's looking at that on that level, but I do know the new plat for the townhome, so part of it is coming up. I believe it's actually on the DRC agenda for this week. So again, before that comes to us, I'd like to see some of those items addressed in the existing part of the PUD that's already having operational challenges.
Yes, Commissioner, as you mentioned, we're already looking at compliance of the first phase of that PUD and what enforcement actions may or may not need to be taken. As far as the second phase that's coming to DRC, we can certainly condition any permit issuances on compliance of their first phase to ensure that they don't get to move forward until they've made good on their previous promises.
Terrific. And there's a couple other development order related items that I know folks are looking at, so I won't belabor the point. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner Lilly. To the point that you brought up about the internal traffic and traffic flow, I think in addition to what you requested being looked at, I'd also like all of us to keep that in mind when we're reviewing and approving future PUDs. That's an important component of them. I'd also like to go back to Commissioner Howington's request. Can you clarify what your request was specifically?
Sure, there was a lot to it. I'm actually going to provide a written copy. So the request is that we need to find out what the cost of a new study would be. I want to know what money has been given up by not enacting new fees. 2015 is a long time, and we built a lot of houses. And I'd like to know how many houses we've built in that time. What is the cost that we've foregone? So I'll provide a list to them. That way they don't have to write it all down.
Excellent.
Can I just add something? I read that a year or two ago, and I do know that the recommendation then was to increase them.
Yes.
So I guess you're looking for that number.
Yes, I want to know what the cost to the city was of not enacting it.
Okay. And the reason I asked for the clarification was twofold. I wanted to make sure that you didn't need anything additional from the commission, but also because I have had conversations with staff about the implementation of that impact fee study, where we're lacking, and I believe that they are already working on bringing those back in future updates to the land development code, future chapters.
Well, that would be great.
So,
I haven't had those conversations, so
yeah.
that is good to know. Because we definitely need to revise.
Yeah, and using those impact fees to drive the kind of development that we want, right? So just to share that with you. I've got a couple things that I'd like to request. I'd like, if it's okay, I'd like to request an overview of the budget process for FY26. I know that process is beginning shortly internally with staff. So if we could get, a 5 to 8 minute just presentation on what that process looks like, for internal, but also the components that come to us as commissioners. I've already asked the short-term rental ordinance. Next, another request I have is I'd like staff to look into expanding sidewalks and streetlights, specifically in District 1, but I've also heard from residents and neighbors across the district that they have concerns about the lack of streetlights and sidewalks, just easy pedestrian access across the city. My idea is that this infill needs to happen and be prioritized around schools, school zones, and parks, and then work out from there. So I just, if it's okay, I'd like to ask staff to look into that. And then the last one, I believe I need consensus from everybody on, but it would be to bring back the zoning in progress ordinance that was tabled at the at the December 9th meeting. It was tabled at the December 9th meeting. It's the one that I was not here for, but the comment that was made when it was tabled was that pending county workshop discussion and on a countywide moratorium, that meeting has already passed, and it doesn't look like the county is interested in doing a moratorium or anything, whatnot. So I think it's important that we control our own destiny. We need to do what's right for our residents, and so I'd like to get consensus to bring that back on the next agenda for February 3rd. Commissioner Santiago.
Sure, just to talk about it. You want the zoning in progress?
For stormwater.
For stormwater, oh, absolutely, yes.
For stormwater, I'd like to full on bring it back for approval. So, still yes?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, Commissioner Howington, yes. Commissioner Villa-Vasquez? Yes. Commissioner Caldwell? Commissioner Lowell?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, obviously, so. And that's all I've got for today. Thank you, guys. Meeting adjourned.